I arrived in Hong Kong in 1987. Yes, I was excited. I was a kid in a candy shop. I was up early, probably 3 a.m, straight out onto the streets looking for the early morning practitioners. I'd heard that people practice kungfu early in the mornings and they're out there, and I wasn't disappointed. They weren't there at 3 a.m, that was just me being too excited, but they were there at around 4 a.m. And they came and came and came. I can't even recreate the picture. There were so many people, there was no space on the sidewalk. Now that wasn't all of Hong Kong, that was certain areas, but it was widespread. And to describe to you that the whole population was in the street is really not a joke. Everybody was there. I'm going to pick a number, 90% of people were practicing some form of martial arts or a martial arts derivative. So Hong Kong or Tai Chi or whatever, and only 10% would be doing, let's say, dancing to music. I was quite soon to be disappointed that the majority of that martial arts that we were looking at was very poor quality. Now, bearing in mind this is 1987 and today we're 2023, so can you imagine from then to now the further deterioration of the martial arts? And so although I was excited and I was happy and I was seeing all sorts of things that were interesting, it surprised me the standard was low, even for myself coming from another culture into the Chinese culture. However, that said, there was a few people whose skill level was extraordinary, and you will not see skill level like that today. These people are all very old. The incentive to train and to operate at that level is really not there anymore. The other thing to note is that out of that 90% of people that were practicing Chinese martial arts, I would say another 90% of them, so 90% of the 90%, were practicing forms. And forms don't interest me. Forms to me are bordering on useless. And so watching people do silly forms flowing through the parks in Hong Kong can get very old for me very quickly. And so it started to trouble me that how was I going to find a good teacher or good teachers with a high level that would even talk to me, and that was going to prove to be a problem. So I must tell you something about my character. I was the kid that couldn't play with two different sized toy soldiers. So if I had a 2-inch toy soldier and my friend's toy soldiers were 3-inch, I couldn't play with it. My brain would not accept even that I'm quite good at pretending or whatever. My brain just said, no, this game is stupid, his are bigger than yours, this game is not real, and that would be it. And that part of my character, when I was in Hong Kong looking at all of this nonsense kung fu that existed, I can't do this. I can't go and sit in the street and do all these silly movements for no reason. I want real kung fu. And then the question arises, well, what actually is real kung fu? Have I now been misled? Is everything that I learned something else? Because as a youngster, I was taught very good, very effective and useful Chinese martial arts that involved all sorts of skills, weapon skills, hand skills, leg skills, twisting and throwing, breaking, all kinds of things. In fact, I would say it's quite dangerous. Now you arrive in Hong Kong and this is the place where all the movies are made and it's all very exciting, but the kung fu is weak and pathetic. And so the question to this mind, this guy who can't play with two different toy soldiers, is, hey, I don't want to be duped here. My soldier's a different size. Well, And so the quest to discover a good teacher, and then was I being taught the truth thereafter, it became almost a life's work. Now, I want to slip this in. I'd mentioned in a previous section that we'd been to the Shaolin Temple and it didn't exist and so on. And what I didn't put in there was simply because the story's complex, is I did go on to be a monk elsewhere. I became a Chan monk, a Zen monk, in another temple, and it was kind of short-lived. I found myself looking at the people around me and thinking, these people are not kind. I want to be with kind people, and they weren't kind. So the monks and the people even attending the temple were not, in my opinion, not very nice. I also was eating this food and I was thinking, boy, what I would do for a nice piece of meat, a steak. And of course then there was the other thing, is some of the people coming into the temple were these pretty girls, and I was thinking, well, do I want to live like this for the rest of my life? And one morning I decided, no, I don't. Anyway, the reason I add that into the story is because, again, so martial arts were not what I was expecting. The temple was not what I was expecting. Shaolin was derelict. And you start to realize, boy, in 1987, things were already terrible. As I began searching now for the real things, whether it was Zen or whether it was martial arts, I struck a new problem. And that was, I was a white boy. And don't let anybody tell you that they were all over in the Far East in 1987 and they were all being taught Kung Fu, because they weren't. Again, another lie in the West. Chinese people have had to protect themselves from the Western people. So it should be of no surprise when I tell you that in 1987, if I asked to learn Kung Fu, people would say no. Whether it was good or bad Kung Fu doesn't even matter. They would say no. The West had been hammering the Far East for a long time. They'd been humiliating and treating Chinese people very badly. So why would they be teaching you Chinese martial arts? So this complicated the search even further. And this is partly how I got into the research part. Was I started realizing dealing with people is going to be difficult. Maybe I need to start looking at texts. And of course, Noelle, as I've said before, helped. Well, there are no words for how much she's helped. Without Noelle, I would not have a martial arts life. She is that special in handling Oriental masters, that special in helping me understand the culture, that special in her translations and teaching me the language. The list goes on. I have to say, the part that I added was this dogged determination to get to the bottom of everything. Noelle just helped us refine it. And so I see a lot of people speaking online now about Kung Fu is a load of rubbish, it's weak, it's pathetic, it's all sorts of things. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. To make a statement like that is bizarre, to say the least. I don't know if the Kung Fu in America or Germany or Italy is weak, strong, real, false, or not. I know what I see online is a load of rubbish. However, let me go on to say, Kung Fu as a whole, if you're going to give it that word, it's not accurate, but okay, let's call it that you're obviously terming Chinese martial arts to be Kung Fu. Kungfu is the singularly most dangerous, deceptive, sneaky, nasty way of combat ever presented on the earth. That's how I would put it, something like that anyway. You have no idea what's in it. And it's certainly not kicking and punching what is the immediate thought. People say, oh, Kung Fu is a striking art. No, it's not. Kung Fu is not an art, first of all, but all right, now there were technicalities. Let's go back to saying Chinese martial arts is striking arts. No, they're not. Some are striking arts, some are throwing arts, some are hidden weapons, some are open weapons, some are military weapons. Some arts have everything. To understand what one is looking for and to understand what Kung Fu really is and to understand where you fit into the martial forest, as it's called, the Mo Lam in Cantonese or the Wu Lin in Mandarin. Where am I in the forest? What do I do? Do I do real Kung Fu? Do I do Tai Chi for breathing? Do I do Qi Gong? Or do I do it all? You are part of the forest. To say that one tree in the forest looks at the other tree and goes, well, you're wrong. This is nonsense. And it's bad conduct by Western people generally. The funny thing is I even see Chinese people doing it now. They seem to have turned on their own culture. But let me give you an example. These are all weapons that come from Chinese martial arts. You can't tell me that this is from breathing and operating in a funny little form. These things are terrible objects of destruction. And the Western mind thinks that, oh, I will use a weapon and I will go like this, or I will use a knife and I will go like this. And actually the Chinese understanding goes further and beyond the way Western people, and now I would say modern people, see it. The weapon is a part, but the operator is another part, and the skill of the operator is yet another part. And this is all completely misunderstood. But all of that goes to making up what is real Kung Fu.